A very good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for joining today's session. My name is Sushant, and I welcome everyone in our second session of our Architect series. So, last week we conducted our first session of Architect series with Emily, and she walked through us like how we can move from to be a Salesforce developer to be a Salesforce architect. Okay, and now our next two sessions with Mira is totally technical sessions and totally we will deep dive into performance considerations related to when you're designing some Salesforce solutions. What are the best practices and how we can make a particular application or where we have to handle extensive data and when we are building an enterprise applications. So in order to consider performance, how we can improve that, either using best practices or through writing a optimized query. So all these things are really technical things. I think these sessions Mira already delivered with the other community as well. So these are really helpful for us, those who are working as a developer right now or planning to be a Salesforce developer in future. So these are really helpful sessions. All right, so we have I guess more than 15 participants, so we can start with our open ceremony meanwhile other ones join. All right, so welcome everyone again. My name is Sushant and I'm your co-host today. Before going to next slide, I will introduce Meera. So our today's speaker is Meera Nair. He is a Salesforce, sorry, she is a Salesforce certified system architect as well as application architect, and she is also an architect, Salesforce architect in UST Global, and also leading a Trivandrum developer group. A very well known personality in our Indian Trailblazer community. Uh, Known for their providing solutions for the performance consideration sessions. So welcome, Mira. All right, let's go to next slide.
Thank you.
So yeah. So I'm your host today. My name is Sushant. I am a 8 certified Salesforce developer working as a senior software engineer at NCR Corporation. And I'm leading this New Delhi Salesforce developer group since 1 year. Also a creator and founder of Talent Central, a new initiative by our New Delhi developer group. And I became Lightning Champion this year in February, and also I'm a part of Gentoo Salesforce. I have delivered 3 sessions in this Gentoo Salesforce initiative, and I'm mentoring uh, J2S aspirants, which is basically in Delhi NCR region. Uh, so I think you most of already aware about J2S. And also I have a 3 year of experience in Salesforce domain. All right, so who we are. So we are New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. We comes in existence and in Feb 2016. These are some of our social media links through which you can connect with us. We are really active on Twitter, LinkedIn, and we also have our official website, which is New Delhi SFDCDUG.com. So you can visit this website, and that website contains all the information related to our initiatives as well as Impact Sales for Saturday past sessions and all the sessions which is already scheduled. Let me admit everyone. Okay, yeah. So do check out this website, and if you want to uh, become a member of our New Delhi family, you can register over there as a volunteer as well. I hope I see lots of volunteers join today. So thank you so much everyone for all your support uh, to make these impact sales for Saturday sessions that were successful. Let's move ahead. So talking about initiatives, so Impact Sales for Saturday is one of the initiative by New Delhi. It's a series of online sessions, webinar sessions, and we usually organize these sessions on every Saturday and Sunday of each week. So previously it was known as a virtual Salesforce Saturday, but we have rebranded it and now it's known as the Impact Salesforce Saturday. So these are the links through which you can check out our past and also the upcoming sessions we already scheduled for you, all of you guys. Talent Central. So Talent Central is one of the newest initiative brought by our New Delhi developer group in Trailblazer community Salesforce ecosystem. So this is something like a Naukri.com, Monster.com, where you can, if you are a fresher in Salesforce and you are looking for your first job, so you can register on our portal as a student, and at the same time HRs also registering themselves on our portal, and they will go through with your resumes or all the details you put on our website, and if they like your profile, then they will directly reach out to you, and if everything goes well, then you will get your job as well. So this is a very new initiative, and but we are really happy to see the response from students as well as HRs. And a good news is that we already have our two success stories from this portal, and so we are hoping for we are doing our best so that we can spread this portal to each and every one of you, and so that you can get the benefit of this. Mentorship Central. So this is one of the oldest initiative we have. It's I start around 5 year old initiative. So this is totally led by Atul Gupta. Atul is one of the seniors in our community, New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. He's a mentor of all of us. So he's managing this mentorship central alone with itself. So this is something like a matchmaking site where you can register yourself as a mentor or as a mentee according to your expertise in Salesforce. If you are looking for a mentor who will train you in your Salesforce learning, that you can register as a mentee and you will send a request to mentors, and then mentor accept your request, and he or she will guide you through your learning journey. It's really helpful for those who are looking for a mentor or a guide who can guide them to be a successful in Salesforce ecosystem. So this is really helpful. Journey to Salesforce. This is not a New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group initiative. This is an initiative run by our Indian Dev Relation team. It's basically, I think everyone already know, it's a two-step process where you have, first of all, you have to complete 4 trail mixes, and then you become eligible to win a Salesforce certification voucher for your PD1 certification. And also uh, our Indian Dev Relation team will organize Employee Connect every month, where uh, partner companies of Salesforce will join that event, and they will interview a few of J2S aspirants, and also they will hire them if they like their profiles. All right, let's move ahead. So these are our channels where we are very active. I would urge to join our Telegram group if you have not joined yet, because this is the first place where we post all our upcoming session details as well as our initiatives, and also the some trendy news which is going on in our Salesforce ecosystem. Either it is related to Trailblazer Employer Connect Fair, which is and also something related to what our Indian delegation team or our experts in community is working on right now. So This is a really helpful group. You can definitely join. And again, you can also check out our YouTube channel. We uploaded all our past sessions over there. So, and also if you like our initiatives and if you like our webinar sessions, then you definitely shout out for us on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. This is one of the important slides I have. So these are the top contributors of this week who gave their time to promote our Impact Salesforce Saturday session this week. I would like to congratulate everyone, and also at the same time, I would thankful for everyone to give their time and to support us so that we can spread this initiative to each and everyone in the Trailblazer community. So thank you so much, guys, and keep doing the good work. Last but not the least, our sponsors. Thank you so much, Cloud Vandana and Growuppers, for all your support. And without you, it's become very difficult for us to manage all this setup, which is required for running all these kind of initiatives and all this kind, and also running these webinar sessions every week. So thanks, everyone. Over to you, Mira.
Thank you so much, Sushant, and thank you all the organizers of New Delhi user group, because it's really good to see all the activities that you are doing for the community to help the community team members. Keep doing the great work. I think we can get started. Let me start sharing my screen and let me know once you are able to see.
Sure, Mira.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So let us get started. Thank you all again for joining today's session. And today's topic is Salesforce solution design considering performance metrics. So since Sushant has already introduced me, I'm not going to the details. This is our agenda for today. So I'll be explaining the background of why I have come up with this particular topic sometime back. And we will be taking two different Salesforce scenarios, and we will see like different solution options available for that. Then from that, how we can define the best solution option. Then we will see how we will be utilizing the developer console and debug log to derive the best solution. So let me tell you some background about why I have come up with this particular session. Recently, I was assigned with doing some performance improvement for one of our Salesforce client. And they were facing multiple challenges with respect to record save time. That is, some of the account or opportunity save operation was taking more than 5 seconds. And they were facing frequent SOQL 101 issue also, especially for specific operations like when they are trying to insert opportunity product to an opportunity. And in some scenarios, the page load performance was also very low. This is not with respect to Lightning, but even their implementation was very huge, and it was taking time for them to move from Classic to Lightning. And within Classic itself, they were facing performance issues with respect to account opportunity and late page load. So we were doing some analysis to see like why this is happening. Of course, in the past few years, they might have implemented lots of customization that might be causing this issue. But on detailed analysis, we found something else happened in that org actually. So when Salesforce introduced Process Builder, right, based on the recommendation from Salesforce, they have migrated many of their existing functionalities like workflow field update and also trigger logic to Process Builder. And it was not simple, like lots of functionalities got migrated to Process Builder. But then we were thinking like why Process Builder might be causing performance issues or SOQL 101 issues. I will try to explain that using some two sample scenarios to see how basically Process Builder could be causing performance issues in our org. So this is one use case that I am going to explain today. That is, I would like to concatenate opportunity name with account name. That is, whenever I'm trying to create a new opportunity, as an example, if we have an account with account name, account ABC, and an opportunity with opportunity name, opportunity XYZ, once the opportunity is saved, I would like to see the opportunity name as account ABC hyphen opportunity XYZ. This is my scenario, a very simple one. But in Salesforce, we have got multiple solution options for the simple scenario. You will be able to implement this using a traditional workflow field update, or you can implement this using a process builder, or you will be even able to implement this using a flow or using a trigger. So we will see each of this in detail, like how we will be able to utilize. Before that, just for your understanding purpose, I will show you what I mean by this particular scenario. For that, let me create a new account, like I mentioned. I just created I'm trying to create a new account called Delhi User Group Demo account. And the other field that I'm going to populate is account active field, because this is one of the criteria I'm using to trigger the workflows and process builders. So I just created a new account with this details. Then let us try to create a new opportunity under this particular account. Just details like name as demo opportunity. You can see the account name is already populated. Then I'm populating only the required fields like close date and stage. Once these details are populated, let me save this. You can see here that the opportunity name got updated as Delhi User Group. That is the account name appended with the opportunity name that we have given. This is what we are trying to accomplish. Let me go back to the presentation. So this is my first solution option. That is using a workflow field update. I'm sure I don't need to explain. This is simple field update with a criteria. I'm checking if the account is active. If the account is active, basically I am creating a field update, which will be updating the opportunity name as account name appended or concatenated with the opportunity name. I hope this is clear, right? So what I have done, I have created each of the solution option, and when I am creating each of the solution option, also I enable debug log and I captured the matrices mentioned here. You can see capture measurement metrics, which are like execution time. Execution time means the total time taken to complete the complete transaction. That means the time taken to save that particular opportunity. Second parameter is solution time. Solution time means when I am trying to save that opportunity, in that a specific time is consumed by the particular field update. So what is that time? Third is DML, that is number of DML statements executed during the current transaction. DML rows you can ignore. SQL. SQL means number of queries that got executed during the current transaction. These are the details that we need to capture while we are executing each of this solution option. Later, I will show you how we need to capture these details and how we will be able to do the comparison. So let me move to my second solution option, which is workflow field update. Sorry, we have seen workflow field update. Next one is process builder. Again, process builder, the criteria is same. It is just checking if the account is active. If the account is active, I am basically utilizing a field update operation, and it is doing the same thing. That is, it is updating the opportunity name concatenated with account name. And third option is flow, which is a before flow update. I hope you are familiar with how you will be creating a before update flow. If not, let me quickly show you a sample. Because flow is something where Salesforce is adding lots of new features in each and every release. It is coming up with more and more features, and nowadays, for complex scenarios, we will be able to implement it using a flow without using custom code. But we might need to really see how effective that will be. Later, we will discuss the details. So when I'm clicking on a new flow option, right, I'm getting this many options. As of now, you will be able to create a screen flow, meaning if you want to implement something for the user to interact with, that's the moment you will be utilizing a screen flow. If you want to do some scheduled operations, you can utilize a scheduled trigger flow. Auto launch flow, basically you will be creating if you want to launch that from a process builder or somewhere else. And platform event triggered flow, meaning when we are creating a platform event, and based on that platform event, if you want to do some operation asynchronously, that is the moment you will be considering platform event triggered flow. But what we are talking is about record triggered flow. That is when we are trying to create a record, what are the operations we will be able to perform. This is almost same as standard trigger operation, that is a before trigger and after trigger. Let us see when I am choosing the option as record triggered flow, what are the options available? This is again a recent feature from Salesforce, whether we will be able to utilize an auto layout or a normal form. So let us choose a normal form. And here you will be able to see for a record trigger flow, what are the options available. That is trigger, when you need to basically execute this particular process builder, or sorry, particular flow. It can be during a record creation, or it can be during a record update, or during both operation, or a record is deleted. And similarly, you will be able to mention if that is before operation or an after operation. This way you will be able to create a flow also. I have created a flow for our requirement, and this is what that particular flow will be doing. The first criteria is that I am checking when this needs to be get executed, basically when the opportunity is created, and then I have got a decision control here, which is checking if the account is active or not. If the account is active, it is calling an action called get record, which is for fetching the parent account details. When the parent account details are fetched, it will get the account name from that parent account, and it will try to append with the opportunity. That assignment operation is happening as part of the last operation. This is our flow scenario. And then the last one is a trigger. Trigger, I hope most of you are familiar with how to write a trigger. This is a very simple trigger where we will be, like, as a best practice, whenever you are writing a code, it should be bulkified. That is, even if we are expecting the user to create only a single record, it should be able to handle multiple records, because in the future, if you are trying to basically data load or try to do a bulk update, otherwise you are going to hit governor limits like SOQL, SOQL 101 or DML issues. So make sure whenever you are writing your code, it is bulkified. So here what I am doing, whenever an opportunity is getting created, I am getting all the account IDs associated with that opportunity and keeping that in a set. Then I am fetching the account name for that accounts which we collected from the opportunity, and iterating over the list again, and populating opportunity name with the account name. Like, since this is a before scenario, you don't need to execute a DML operation. Automatically, Salesforce will be taking care of the actual update of name field. Now we need to see, since we have seen all the different solution scenarios, we need to see how we will be able to capture the performance related details. There are a couple of things you might need to do for that. Okay. Sushant, is there any way I can disable these notifications, because the notification of people joining is actually covering one part of my.
Okay. Atul, can you please check if we can disable this notification?
Give me a moment. You carry on. I'll check it.
Okay, fine. I think now
Thank
it is okay. Whatever notification I am getting, I am admitting. Okay. Yeah, I will show you how you need to capture the performance related matrices. For that, the important thing, what you need to do is enabling debug log. For enabling a debug log, you might know already that there should be a debug level created. So debug level basically define the level of details that you need to capture within a debug log. There are different categories available like database, workflows. So when you need to capture all the details, make sure that the database is at the finest level. Workflow is also at the finer level. And the violation colors, all those things you can keep at the info level. But again, Apex core should be at the finest level. And the important thing is that the Apex profiling you need to keep at the finest level. This is because only if the Apex profiling is kept at the finest level, you will be able to capture details like the governor limits consumed and each and every time taken for each of the transaction. So make sure you are creating a debug level with the specifications. Once it is created, you will be able to basically create or define a debug log. I will show you like the debug log that I have created already. You can see I have got an active debug log created for me already with the debug level that I just mentioned. The other thing is you need to basically open developer console because we are going to use developer console for tracking all the details. And I will quickly show you what we need to do to capture the details. Like I said, since we have got multiple solution options, let us execute one and see how you will be able to capture the details. This is a workflow I have created for our requirement, that is for appending opportunity name with account name. This is already in active stage. So when I'm trying to create a new opportunity, it should basically get executed utilizing this particular workflow. We have already one. Okay, what we can do is clone this opportunity and I'm trying to create a new opportunity. Since the details are already populated, I'm just saving this. And under logs, you can see an debug log got created automatically. Just open this. And this is the traditional view of seeing debug levels or debug details, right? So if you need to capture details related to the limit and the transaction time, what you need to do is under debug, there is a switch perspective. And when you take switch perspective, you can see something called analysis. So this will be giving you a view like this, where you will be able to capture all the details or get all the details. In the execution overview, you will be able to see save order. Save order means what are the operations happened during your current transaction. To ease of capturing, right? I have only this workflow active at this point. That is why only you are seeing workflow here. But if I had a probably a trigger as part of this execution, you will be having also after this workflow, you will be having a trigger also. Probably I will try to show that later, like if we have two operations, how this looks like. And it has got a different color code for each of the operation. For workflow, it is coming in this purple color. Trigger, I guess it's in some other color like red. So you will be able to easily visualize the order of execution of different actions and under that particular debug. And then you have got limits. limits means how many DMS you consumed or how many SOQL statements you have consumed. Here you can see it is not showing anything. This is because we have executed a workflow field update, and a workflow field update, even if that is a field update at the backend with respect to governor limits, is not consuming any DML limit or SOQL limit. That's why I am not able to show you anything. But when we are trying out the next option, probably I will be able to show you that. Similarly, you will be able to see additional details in a visual manner, like how much time it has taken to complete the visual workflow, or a trigger, if it was there, how much time it has taken. Now we will see what other details are available as part of this. We have a execution stack, something called stack tree. So stack tree will be showing you additional details about the functionalities that got executed as part of your transaction, including it will show you the duration and the heap details also. Execution tree and performance tree both will show you almost the same kind of information, but the difference is that the execution tree will be showing you in-depth details of workflow or whatever operations happen. For example, if you are trying to capture a trigger, and if it has got a for loop within that trigger, this one will be showing time taken for each of the for loop execution. Compared to that, performance tree will be showing more a higher level of details. It will be combining or summarizing the details, and it will show you the number of iterations for that particular operation. For example, if you have a for loop corresponding to for loop, you will have a single entry here, but it will show you all the details corresponding to that particular iteration. So in our scenario, you know, like we have basically executed a workflow, and this duration, if you see at the top right, 106.08, this is in milliseconds, and this is the time it has taken to execute the current operation. Maybe to just for our comparison purpose, right, what I will do is I will create a simple slide, and I will add a table here to capture the details. I have captured this already, but this is just for our understanding to see how we will be able to capture the details. So we have a two things we will be comparing for probably here, a workflow rule and a process builder. And the details that we are going to capture is total execution time, then the solution time, number of DMS statements that got executed, and SOQL statement that got executed. For a workflow rule, right? So from here, you can see it is 106.08. Let us capture it as 106. And solution time means the time taken for just the workflow execution. We can see it is here, it is just 43. So let me capture that also. DMS statement, like I mentioned, it is not consuming. A workflow field update is not consuming any kind of Salesforce governor limit. So it is 0 here. And for SOQL execution also, it is 0. Next, what we are trying to do, we are going to do the same kind of operation for a process builder also. For that, what we need to do is the workflow rule is active. So let me deactivate. And I have the process builder already here, which is not active. Like I mentioned, this is doing the same operation, which is checking for account is active. If it is active, it is updating the account name by appending opportunity name with account name. So let us activate this one. And what now I am going to do is, we have the opportunity already. I'm going to clone the same opportunity and create a new one. This is opportunity for PB. We have all the details populated. So it got saved. Now let us go back and see or track the same details. You can see a new entry for, we have a new entry in the developer console. Let me open this. Similar to what we have done before, let us change the perspective and move to analysis. Let me show you first how you will be able to capture the limits. Here you can see the details because a process builder is always consuming governor limits. And in addition to DML and SOQL, you will be able to see additional details also here, like field set, describe happened, aggregate functions that got executed. But for now, we are just concentrating on SOQL and DML count. You can see a DML, the limit, you know it, right? For a current transaction or for a single transaction, the limit for DML statement is 150. Out of that, our PB has consumed 1. Do you know why a PB is consuming a DML? This is because the order of execution of a transaction. If you are not very familiar with the Salesforce order of transaction, right? It's always good to have a check at the order of transaction. Because it's very, very important to understand the order of execution of a single transaction, like what is going to get executed first and what is going to get executed at a later point of time. So if you see this, right, you can see like, you know, the initial operation that is happening is the original record will be getting loaded for seeing the details. Then all the validations like the page layout, which the validations which we have added in the layout will be happening. Then if you have got any before flows, that will be getting executed, followed by before triggers, then followed by some other validations, and it is going to then save the record to database. Once the record is saved to database, but the actual commit, the complete transaction is not yet happened. Once the record is saved to database, it's going to execute all after operations, including trigger, assignment rules, workflow rules, everything. And if you see like, you know, even the triggered flows are getting executed after that. And in the order of execution, basically the process or the process builder also happening at later point of time only. That is after the record is committed to database. Since the PB is getting executed after the record is committed to database, it needs to definitely execute a DML to update that opportunity again. That's why a PB is consuming a DML operation again. So it's important to consider or understand the order of execution. So since it is consuming a single DML operation here, let us capture that here, DML as 1. Now we go back, and if you see the SOQL count, it is again 1, because when we are trying to query the account to fetch the account name, right, it is consuming 1 SOQL there. Now let us go back to the transaction time details. Let me go to performance tree. And if you see the details here, you can see the total time of execution for a PB is 509 milliseconds. Let us capture that. You can see the difference, right? The workflow just took 106 milliseconds, whereas a PB took almost 509 milliseconds. And solution time means just the time taken to execute the workflow. Workflow means here it is PB. The PB is also considered as a workflow, and the time taken is 380 milliseconds. Okay, see the difference between a workflow rule solution time and a PB time. Solution time for a workflow is just 43, where it is for a PB, it is 380. And if you see the DML count difference also for workflow, you are not consuming anything, whereas for a PB, it is consuming 1 each. Because of time constraint, let us not go to other execution details, because I have done that already and captured details for our comparison. So let me try to explain that. Is it visible or not? Okay, let me. So here you can see what I have done. I have captured for all the 4 solution options the time taken. We have workflow, trigger, flow, and process builder. Total execution time, you can see it is actually increasing for each of the solution, where workflow is consuming the least and process builder is consuming the most. Similarly for solution time, also it is the same. You can see a trigger. compared to the other configurable solution like flow or process builder, a trigger is consuming lesser time only. And DML also, if you consider, only a process builder is consuming one. This is because all other workflow is definitely not consuming anything, but a trigger and flow, we implemented a before scenario. So it's not consuming a DML. Only SOQL, like for workflow, it is nothing there, but for trigger, flow, and process builder, it is consuming one each because of the query to get details from account object. You can see a difference here, but when you take workflow, I have seen people are making complaints related to workflow field updates, because when you execute a workflow field update, right, it is basically going to recall all your triggers again. So if you have got complex trigger implementations, it's going to consume time again. So when you are defining your trigger framework, basically you need to follow all the best practices. But even for a process builder, right, I have noticed when you are executing a field update, it's also going to call the transaction, all the update or save related operations once again. Everything will be getting executed. If you consider that, trigger and flow will not show that behavior because it's happening before the record save. So before deciding your solution, you might need to consider all these factors, like how complex is your transaction operations? Do you have complex trigger related executions, which you need to definitely avoid for a second execution and all. Compare all those factors. So this is with respect to a single transaction, and one second. And I have a graphical representation also for the same operation. In addition to that, what I have done, most of the time for us, it's not a single record operation, right? We are going to do bulk operation. I think I have done it for around 20 or 50 records and capture the details same, like for workflow, trigger, flow, and process builder, how much time it is consuming. But here you can see that definitely compared to a single record, the time taken for bulk record is more. And you can see like workflow, it is 238 in total, whereas a process builder 810. Even for flow. So this is because even if we say flows or process builders are bulkified, at the back end, it is actually executing operations for single record, and at the end only it is combining all the records and doing a single DML operation. And even solution time, you can see workflow just 69, whereas you can see it is like 644 for a process builder. But DML SOQL, it's the same as what we have seen before for a single record, because it's a bulkified operation. And again, this is a graphical representation of what we have captured. And like I mentioned, if you have got a proper trigger framework, where you will be able to control the recursive execution of triggers and all, and the workflow field update is going to be the easiest solution for you. But there are other additional things that you need to consider, like, Salesforce will not be doing additional customizations in workflows, but they will be building more operations or more functionalities around flows only. So if you want to avoid workflow, I will say like a before flow might be comparatively easiest option for you, even for bulk operation. Now, since we have seen a before update scenario, we will take an after update use case also. This is for a contact operation. That is whenever creating a contact, right? A contact is having a custom field called country. And when a new contact is getting created, I would like to populate the child contact's value to parent account. As an example, if I have a contact with a country value India and another contact with a country value China, once the contact is saved, I would like to see the account country field value as India, China. This is my requirement. Definitely an after update scenario, because you want to do something on the parent record, not on the child record. I hope you know like where to use a before scenario and where to use an after scenario. Most of the time, if you're trying to update something on the parent record, it's always better to have it as an after operation. This is because sometimes if you're doing it as a before operation, suppose the transaction is getting failed. You are unnecessarily doing some kind of operation, which is definitely going to roll back. So after operation, we'll make sure that the operation is already committed to the database, not committed, saved to the database. So you will have comparatively a more control on the execution. Again, if you consider the different scenario, different solution options, compared to previous scenario, we have got more solution options here. Using configurable solution, I have mentioned 3 different options here. A process builder with flow. That is, from a process builder, this is somewhat complex compared to previous scenario. So you will not be able to implement this much complex requirement using a process builder. So you need to compare a process builder with flow. The second option is flow. I think one of the latest release only Salesforce has introduced option to invoke after triggers from flow. So I have tried out that option also as a second solution. And the third solution, again, using process builder. But here what we are going to do is, instead of a flow, we are going to do an Apex method. And using a trigger, we have got 2 solution options. For example, I can implement this using an after update trigger or an asynchronous trigger. Asynchronous trigger, I'm not sure if you are familiar or not, but I will be giving you some additional details about what is an asynchronous trigger and how you need to execute that. And the last solution is queuable Apex, which is again an asynchronous mode of execution. I hope you know what is asynchronous mode. Compared to our current transaction, this is going to execute as a separate thread so that our current transaction time and governor limits will not be getting affected. See, I have captured only 6 solution options here, but there are number of other solution options for this simple scenario. For example, instead of queuable Apex, you will be able to do a future Apex. And instead of having this one, you can even utilize a platform event. Like when the changes, when the contact is getting triggered, you can have a simple platform event getting triggered, which is going to save all the details. Then probably you can have a process builder or a flow or trigger on the platform event to process that and populate parent account. So platform events will be helpful when you are having, if you want to, on a particular transaction, if you want to do multiple operations without affecting your current transaction. So there are plenty of options available within Salesforce using how you will be able to solve something. This is my first option, which is using a process builder and flow. What I am doing here is, inside the process builder, I am passing a couple of parameters to the flow. Here, basically what I am doing in the process builder itself, I am collecting all the contacts associated to that particular single account, and I am passing that to this particular flow. So within the flow, what it is doing, just 1 second. Okay, so within the flow, what it is doing is it's iterating over all the contacts passed to this particular flow, and it is checking if the account is populated or not. If the country is populated for that contact or not. If the country is populated, it is going to store the value to a temporary variable. We have created a temporary variable to store the country values from all the contacts. So it will check if the variable contains, because we don't need to have store the same country more than one. So I will check like if the variable already contains the same country or not. If it does not contain, I will populate or append that single country value to that variable. And this iteration will continue. At the end, we will have a variable storing the value of all the concatenated countries. And once this iteration is over, I will get the parent account, which we need to update with the value. And I will assign that single variable value to the account country field, and the update operation will be happening. This is how the process builder flow will be working. And same logic I have implemented using a pure flow scenario. In the pure flow, like I have shown before, you will be able to define when it needs to be get executed and the flow pattern, whether it is after record saved or before record saved. So we have defined it as a the trigger point as when a record is created, and run the flow once the record is saved to the database. The logic is the same, so I'm not explaining this. And again, the third option is process builder with invocable Apex. Instead of calling a flow, I have called an invocable Apex here. You can see we have an action called call Apex, and from the call Apex, I will be able to mention which of my Apex method I would like to call from a process builder. Based on that, I have called this particular class called account country population. In the account country population, you can see the functionality I have mentioned it as invocable method. This is how you will be defining an invocable method for a flow or process builder to consume. And okay, I'm not explaining the logic in details, but what it is doing, it will be getting all the account IDs for the current contacts, which is getting updated. It will do some processing, will retrieve the value and will update all the accounts with the corresponding country values. That's what this particular logic is doing. And I have same logic getting implemented as part of an after update trigger also. Here, it's purely an after update where you have all the contacts, so you will be able to iterate and perform the operation. And next operation is asynchronous trigger. So asynchronous trigger is also comparatively a new feature introduced by Salesforce. But if you need to implement this, what you need to do is enable change data capture for that particular record. In our scenario, I want to execute some operation when a contact is getting created. So to enable that under change data capture, I have selected contact as one of the entity. Maybe let me see if I can quickly show you that. So you can see already I have enabled change data capture for contact here. This is my developer org. Developer org has got some constraints on how many records, how many objects you will be, for which you will be able to enable CDC. I think it's maximum 5. You might need to get additional license from Salesforce to do it for more than 5 objects. And what it is doing, if the CDC is enabled for a particular object like contact, whenever a contact is getting created, updated, deleted, or undeleted, it is going to create a new entry or new record at the backend, and it is going to get inserted to another object called contact change event. So it is something Salesforce is doing by its own. It's kind of platform event only. So the record will be saved to a separate object. And what we will be able to do is we will be able to create then trigger on the second record, and we can do the additional operations. The advantage is that the trigger on the second contact change event object, it is going to happen as a separate thread. So once the account contact save is completed, the account update is going to happen as a separate transaction. And other important thing is that if you need to basically do debug log or capture debug log for any asynchronous operation, you need to enable debug log for automated process. That is, trace entity type should be an automated process. If you just capture the details of the current user, it won't be capturing details of an asynchronous process. So once I have done that, asynchronous triggers, like I mentioned, it is going to create something called contact change event record, and this is how it will look like. This is not a complete view. I have just taken the important part of that particular record. It will have a header component which contains the ID of that particular change event and some additional details, and then will be having additional details about the record which is getting updated and the field which are going to get updated. For an insert operation, a change event record will be containing all fields which is currently populated in your record. But if the change event creation is for just an update operation, the change event record will just contain the record ID and the field which got updated. So in the asynchronous operation, if you need to get additional details, you might need to execute additional queries. And this is my trigger on contact change event. You can see trigger on contact change event, and a trigger on contact change event is always going to be an after insert operation, because like I mentioned, what Salesforce is doing whenever something is happening, it's inserting a new record to contact change event. So it's going to be an after insert operation always, and the processing is same. Only thing is like from the header, if we were taking the details directly from trigger.new, which is going to give us a contact record, here we need to get the contact change event, and it contains a header component. And from the header component, we need to check the operation type. Operation type in our case is create. So I'm checking if the operation type is create, then I'm collecting all the account IDs which needs to be updated, and then the logic is same. And the last option is queuable Apex. I hope if you are familiar with the queuable Apex, again, it's an asynchronous mode of executing code within Salesforce. You can have either queuable Apex or add future to execute this pattern. But the difference is that a queuable Apex, you can have chained asynchronous operations, but a future method will not be able to do that. And in the queuable Apex, again, you will be able to pass parameters like object parameters also, whereas if a future has got more constraints on the type of parameters you will be able to pass. So what I'm doing here is from the trigger on contact, I am calling this particular queuable Apex method using the enqueue mechanism, enqueue job mechanism, and it will be calling the particular asynchronous operation corresponding to queuable Apex. Since we have seen all the different solution options, this is how I have captured the details again. Let us see this from a high level. So we have got a PB plus flow. You can see it is taking around 382 milliseconds to complete the transaction. Similarly, you can see it for other operations, but you can see compared to first 4 options, to asynchronous execution, that is asynchronous trigger and queuable Apex has got 2 entries. This is because for asynchronous, if you see it is 144. This 144 is the current transaction type, that is the time taken to save a contact record. But the actual update on account country is happening as a separate transaction, and it is consuming around 104 milliseconds. Similarly, for queuable, you can see it is a different. There is a difference. But before consuming an asynchronous operation, the thing that you need to consider is that there is limit on the number of asynchronous operations that can be executed in a single transaction. I think for a queuable Apex, it is 50 or something like that. So you need to make sure you are within that limit before consuming this. And if you see a PB flow is consuming the most time, and compared to PB plus Apex, it's like PB plus Apex is less compared to a PB plus flow option. And even the flow itself is better than a PB plus flow. Like I mentioned, if you're within the limit, then asynchronous is always going to be helpful for you. And solution time also, if you consider, right, you can see a trigger is consuming less, but if you consider asynchronous operation, and asynchronous trigger is also consuming less time only. And if you consider the DML operations, irrespective of the solution type, it's always consuming 1, because always this operation is going to be an after update operation. So it definitely needs to execute a DML statement to complete the update operation. Now, the difference is here for the SOQL count. If you see the SOQL count, right, a PB plus flow and a flow solution is consuming around 3 SOQLs, whereas all other operations are consuming just 1. This one is when it is actually querying and fetching details of the child contacts. Now, why the PB plus flow is consuming more? A process builder, according to Salesforce documentations, a DML operation happening within a PB or flow is always consuming 1 DML limit plus 1 SOQL limit, which is not happening when we are executing through a code. In addition to that, right, in the logic, we have got many places where we are trying to fetch the details if you need to implement it using flow. For example, we have get record to fetch details of the maybe I can quickly show you that one. So this was the flow that we used, right? Pure flow solution. And we have got a get record here, which is to fetch all the child contacts corresponding to the account. This is consuming one SQL statement. Then we have a get record again here. This is for fetching the account which needs to be updated. This is again consuming a SQL statement. The third one is actually an update operation. Like I mentioned, any update or any DML operation which is happening within a flow or PB is always consuming an SQL also. So all together now we have 3 SQL statements which got executed as part of a flow or PB. And this is a diagrammatic representation of time taken. Similar to what we have done before, I have executed bulk operation for this scenario also. You can see the difference here. Definitely PB plus flow is consuming more time, PB compared to even PB plus Apex also. But the limits on the DML and circles remains the same as a single record execution, because always all these operations should be bulkified. This is the diagrammatic representation. So in my opinion, what I feel is like if you are within the asynchronous operation limit and if the operation can be executed as asynchronous, if you don't have any impact on the current transaction, you don't need that particular action should be completed in the current transaction also. In that case, you can go ahead with an asynchronous operation. And this is just a summary of whatever we have discussed till now. Like I mentioned, if it is a simple before save operation, and if you don't have complex operations as part of your current transaction, you can go ahead with a workflow itself. The advantage here is that it is not consuming any governor limits and the performance is much better compared to other operations. But if it is a complex before save scenario, better to consider trigger or flow based on your convenience. For example, if performance is the major concern for you, a trigger is always better. But if you don't have enough time to implement a trigger and maintain it, basically if you write a trigger, you need to write a test bus for that. So the implementation effort is also more. Then definitely you can consider flow as a solution option. But if it is after a save operation, you can have either asynchronous trigger if you are within the transaction, within the limitations of asynchronous operations, else you can always utilize a PB plus invocable method. So other important note is that whenever you are doing a unit testing, right? Our traditional approach is that we will be just executing the functionality testing and we will make sure, or even we will do a bulk testing and make sure that everything is working fine. But in my opinion, in addition to the functionality testing, it's always better to do a performance analysis like this and also see like the governor limits, how it got affected, like how many more queries got added in the current transaction or how many DML statements it got added. Because you saw like a simple operation using a flow and process builder, it consumed about 3 SQL statements. So you will be able to easily hit limit of 100 SQL statements if you have got complex operations as part of a single transaction. And other thing is, like I have shown you an approach of how you need to capture the details, but make sure in production you don't try to do this, because when you enable debug log with finer and finest level, it is also going to affect the performance. So consider this as a method of comparing performance when you are doing the development. Yeah, that's it from my side. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Guys, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat window and Mira will reply.
Okay, I can see already some questions here. Yeah. Okay, Bishumbar, the question is related to CDC, right? I don't remember exactly now. Yes, there is a connection between change data capture and platform event. So what built on top of what, that I don't remember, but both of them are connected. One is using the other feature. Okay, I think Sushant, we are good. I'm not seeing any additional questions. Later also you can put on chat or you can reach out to me through LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm really happy to help.
Sure. And guys, we are starting with our Kahoot quiz, and in between that, if you have any questions, you can uh, put your question in the chat window, and after the quiz, if you see a few questions, then definitely Mira can answer at that time as well. All right. Thank you so much, Mira, for this awesome session. This is really I know you are really famous for these topics, and I love your all your sessions. Actually, I attended the session also previously, but this time again I learned few new things. So your every session always teach something new. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us.
Sure, Sushant. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah,
All
thank you.
right, so yeah, all right. So let's start with the quiz. Let me share my screen. Atul and Sagar or Mira, if you can confirm you are able to see my screen.
Yes.
All right. So guys, this is the game pin. Visit www.kahoot.it and use this game pin to join. So guys, meanwhile you are joining, let me explain the rules. Uh, so in the first session of this architect series, I already explained like we have two simple rules. First one is like you have to participate in all architect sessions, and for that you can increase your chances of winning this certification voucher by participating in all Kahoot quizzes. And at the end of the session, at the end of the series, we will sum up all your scores of 3 sessions Kahoot uh, marks, and then we will find out the winner at the end of the series. Along with that, we also have one rule like you have to at least share one post or retweet if you like our session, today's session or previous session. So definitely give us a shout out on LinkedIn and Twitter. uh, and while sharing or retweeting, don't forget to add New Delhi hashtag Impact Salesforce Saturday hashtag, and also tag all of us along with our speaker Mira. Uh, so these are the only two simple rules for this for winning or for this Salesforce certification voucher. And I can see we have already 24 participants joined. Let's wait for 10 to 15 seconds more, and then we will start. Let me check if we don't have any questions. Okay, so I guess everyone joined. Let's get started. I see Sneha joined. We have 30 participants, 4 of us. Okay, now everyone joined. Let's get started. All the best, guys. Here's your first question. Process builder field update consumes SOCL, DML governance limit, both or none of them. Thirteen out of 26 answered correctly. The answer is both. Let's see who is leading the podium. Divya, Ketan, Shalini, very well played. Keep playing. And along with these three, we have Raj and Umang. Keep playing, guys. This is the second question. Ten seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. To see governance limit related information in developer console, which of the debug levels should be set to finest? And the answer is Apex profile. 10 people answered correctly. Let's see the results. Ritu jumped on the first position, Raghav on second, and Hem on third. So big change on the podium after the second question. Let's see what happens in the third one. This is the third question, guys. It's a true false question. Read the statement carefully. Time's up. All right, so most of them answer correctly. Now see the results again. Babar comes on fourth position and top three still remain same. Fourth question, in order of execution in Salesforce, which of the below will be executed first? Workflow, before trigger, process builder, and before flow. Order of execution. Okay. So only two answer correctly. Let's see the results. Deepak Deepak jumped on third position, and Ritu and Raghav still on first and second. Keep playing, guys. We have three questions. So this is the fifth question. It's a multi-choice question. We have to select two answers. Yes, 12 people answer correctly. 12 plus 9, because if you select the one, again you will get the marks. So let's see the changes. Hem on top, Shalini back in the game again on second, Ritu on third, Bishambar and Babar on fourth and fifth. So lots of changes in the end of this quiz. Sixth question. What is the object name for contact record created through change data capture? Here are your options. Asynchronous contact, contact event trigger, contact event, contact change event. 18 people answer correctly. Shalini Gupta slips on fourth position. Hem still on first, Bishambar and Babar on third, Riti on fourth. So this is the final question of this quiz. All the best to everyone. Try to answer correctly. The simple one, number of DML statements allowed in single transaction. Yep, 14 people answer correctly. So questions are really awesome. I loved all the questions. So this is totally related to the session material what Meera shared with us, and I see most of the answers are correct, are answered by all the participants correctly. So so let's see the final results. So on third position we have Babar Nazim. Congratulations. On second we have Bishambar. Congratulations, Bishambar. And on first, we have Haim. Congratulations to the top three winners. And on Radhandra, let's see. Okay, so it's not able to see. No worries. So, guys, this is again, I'm saying this is not the final results. We still have one session remaining for this 3-session architect series, and the final winner will be decided on basis of the marks you are collecting within all the 3 cow sessions. So attending all the sessions are really important for us, and they'll increase your chance to win the certification voucher. So with that, we are wrapping up our today's session. And before wrapping up, I would like to thank Meera. Thank you so much, Meera, for your time and sharing your knowledge with all of us. And along with that, I also thank all of our participants and all our volunteers, and also my New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group colleagues to helping us and promoting this Impact Salesforce Saturday initiative every week. And special thanks to our volunteers for spreading this up on LinkedIn and Twitter, so that this initiative can reach out to uh, all the Trailblazer community peoples, and they can leverage and they can get some benefit from these sessions we are organizing every week. So thanks everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day. Stay blessed, stay happy.
Thank you all. Yeah, let us meet next week.
Thanks, Vijay. Yeah, definitely.